Hare Krishna, everyone. Welcome to this week's edition of the Hare Krishna Project podcast. This is episode number 164. Yes, 164. We've now been broadcasting for 4 years without being struck off air, without anyone trying to attempt to take the podcast offline. And over the last 4 years, we've developed a very supportive global audience, and I appreciate each and every one of you. And what I personally love about this podcast is each and every week I get to virtually travel all over the world and meet these fascinating people that have real stories to tell. And this week is another one of those fascinating weeks where we get to talk about some real issues that affects the not just the devotee community but the general world community. And this is also an historic first because it's the first time I've ever interviewed four people at the same time. So I feel like I'm going to have to be a referee to try and make sure that everyone gets a chance to speak and everyone get a chance to air their view or their opinion. And this week's edition is also extra special because it's being broadcast in partnership with Spiritual Matter, which is a wonderful organization based in Ukraine. And we've got four devotees from Spiritual Matter who, over the next hour or so, 2 hours, we'll talk about their work, their aims and objectives, and what Spiritual Matter is. But I've come across, or I've been aware of Spiritual Matter for about a month, and I'm incredibly impressed by their savor and the things that they do. Before I introduce our guests, just to remind you, do not forget, if you're watching this on YouTube and you haven't already, please hit the subscribe button so you can be kept updated about future podcasts and video productions from the Hare Krishna Project. And or if you're watching this on Facebook, if you haven't already, please hit the like or follow button of the Hare Krishna Project Facebook page. Those are the two ways you can be kept updated about what we're doing. As you know, as wonderful as this podcast is at the Hare Krishna Project, we also do book distribution, school festivals, public events, because we are enthusiastic about sharing the teachings of Srila Prabhupada with ordinary, everyday people, people like us. Okay, episode 164. That's the introduction done. I am delighted to welcome our guests this week, Neela Chandra Prabhu, Dina Bandhu Prabhu, Mukunda Hari Prabhu, and Lubomir Prabhu. Hare Krishna Prabhus.
Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna.
It's great to have you all with us. And I'm excited, genuinely excited about today's conversation because it's a really, really important conversation. So let's start with a quick introduction. I think it's important that I point out that two of you are currently in Ukraine, and two of you are not. But you're all Ukrainian, I believe, or certainly in this light.
No,
No, okay,
no.
no. So I've messed up already. You see, you all have a very special link with Ukraine. That's the best way to put it. So what I'd like to do for the first few moments is for you all to in turn tell us a bit about yourself, how you came across Krishna consciousness, how you met the devotees, um, and what services have you been involved with, and then um, uh, talk a bit about the issue of the day, the war in Ukraine, and what your experiences have been of the war so far. So maybe we'll start with whoever wants to go first, and that kind of first basic one, uh, you know, background in the movement and your savor, that kind of thing.
Okay, I can jump in. Um, it's really nice to be on your podcast, Narada. Thanks for inviting all of us. I'll just briefly introduce myself to those who don't know me. My name is Dina Bandhu Das. I was born in Ukraine. Uh, I joined the movement in 1990. In 89, first I was in touch with Srila Prabhupada's books. And then in 90, I was following more strictly to all the principles and chanting Hare Krishna. I was very sincere, inspired devotee, doing my studies in an art college and art university. So I'm an artist by profession. Then, to cut long story short, in '94 I joined the art department for North European BBT, Bhaktivedanta Book Trust, as a part of team of book illustrators. Was doing this service for a few years. At that time, I was a brahmachari. It's popular now to tell how many years one being practicing a monk, right? It's like a fashion now. Yeah, yeah. So I was a brahmachari for 8 years, doing service full on. Then in 2003, I was invited to visit New Zealand to do another big art project and doing big murals for the temple in Auckland City, in the temple of Shishi Radha Giridhari Mandir. So I was doing that service, painting huge murals of Krishna's pastimes there for 6 years, and then I moved to Australia in 2001.
21.
So I'm here living in Brisbane, Queensland. So broadcasting from Australia, originally from Ukraine. I'm there with all my heart, with all my thoughts, and I'd like to hear other introductions from other devotees. Thank you so much.
I can go next. So my name is Neelachandra Das. I joined devotee community in 2008, and I'm IT guy by profession. And uh, many years I was involved in the organizing committee of one of the biggest festivals, devotee festivals. It was biggest in Ukraine, Bhakti Sangama Festival. In the best years, we had 10,000+ devotees joining the festival. And many years I was serving there. I also was serving Food for Life program and many different like small things. And uh, I originally from Dnipro, from Ukraine, and started from 2013. I traveled a lot because of my work. And in 2018, I got back to Ukraine, married, and planned to live there, but due to war, had to leave. And luckily, the fighting stopped like few blocks from our house in Kiev suburbs. And we had a chance to visit it in summer 2022, and it was terrible view like of surroundings. Luckily, our house stayed safe, but now I'm with my family in Switzerland and trying to help devotees in Ukraine and whatever I can do. Managing right now finances and reports for all the nations that we are gathering to support Ukrainian devotees in need and fighters, Ukrainian devotee who joined army and fighting Russian aggression and providing all reports. So this is kind of brief introduction about myself.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you.
Okay, who's next?
It's interesting. Just before Mukunda will introduce himself, I want to say that none of the members of Spiritual Matter who are present here we ever met in person. That's interesting. So we've been associating with each other virtually.
No. I know Neelachandra
Oh, you
personally.
knew Neelachandra before. Okay.
Yes. Bhakti Sangama Festival. So, I'm sorry for my English. I have my notations here, and I will try my best. My name is Mukhailo Tashkov. My spiritual name is Mukunda Haridas. I am from Mykolaiv, a city in the south of Ukraine. I'm an officer of 299 Tactical Aviation Brigade of the Air Forces of the Armed Forces of Ukraine. The Vimanas our pilots operate in the sky are Su-25 assault aircraft. In addition to serving in the Ukrainian army throughout my conscious life, I have also been trying to serve God during all these years. I joined the International Society for Krishna Consciousness in 2007, and in 2012 I received initiation from Bhaktivedanta Goswami Maharaj. From 2011 to 2013, I studied at the postgraduate level at the Faculty of Philosophy. It was during this period that I began working with public relations in our yatra. At the end of the 2017, I started a preaching project called Spiritual Matter. I launched a YouTube channel and a Facebook group for thoughtful people aiming to spread dialectical Vaishnava thinking, as it is important both for Vaishnavas and for society. On February 24, 2022, the full-scale invasion of Ukraine by Russia began. Within a few days, Russian troops occupied Kherson and began attacking Mykolaiv, specifically from the direction where our air base is located. There were battles on the territory of our military unit, but the attacks of the Russian invaders were repelled. Since the beginning of the Russian aggression, the Spiritual Matter Project has gained a new dimension. It has become not only a preaching initiative, but also a volunteer one, as we started taking care of Vaishnavas serving in the Ukrainian Defense Forces and supporting the families of the fallen. But more about that later. I'm sorry.
Can I just, before we move on to Lubomir, thank Mukunda Hari Prabhu for that. Your English is a lot better than you think. Your English is good. I know you were reading that, but it was very easy to understand. And I just want to say thank you for your service as a representative from Britain, because we appreciate you, and we recognize the importance of what you are doing. Okay, Lubomir Prabhu.
Okay, so my name is Lubomir. I'm from Moldova, which is a country neighboring Ukraine. And just like the majority of Moldovans, I have regularly visited Odessa for summer holidays since my childhood. And when I started practicing Krishna consciousness in 2013, I also attended Bhakti Sangam festivals and served ISCKON leaders there as an interpreter. In 2019, I served Dirashanta Das Goswami Maharaj during his preaching tour in Kiev, Zaporozhye, Dnipro, Kharkov city. So when in 2022 I saw how they were bombed and our leaders said that we should be neutral to terror and mass killing of women and children, I couldn't believe my ears. I engaged in debates with such astronaut devotees, as we call them, and compiled a collection of Srila Prabhupada's quotes where he explains who is the aggressor, what is Dharma, Yuddha, religious fight, and what devotees should do in case of aggression. So for 3 years, I'm in constant fighting mode, having daily debates with devotees who try to present Krishna consciousness as a terror and adharma neutral philosophy, and who are engaged in sahajiya, posing themselves as liberated souls and paramahamsas. It's an ignorant and hypocritical position, because telling the Ukrainian devotees to act like Prahlad Maharaj or Haridas Thakur in case of aggression, they refuse to act in the same way when they are even criticized for this sahajiya, not to mention something far more serious like being physically aggressed. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Prabhus, for your introductions. just so the viewers and listeners at home are aware that we've kind of got an agreed set of points to discuss today, but from time to time I will go off tangent and maybe talk about other things. And what's great is at least two of you answered the second part of the first question already. So you've done your basic introductions, which is really good. And then we also kind of want to just discuss a little bit about your experiences since the war started. And I think two of you have kind of touched on that. So maybe just before we get into the kind of real detail of our conversation today, if Dina Bandhu Prabhu and Nila Chandra Prabhu could just basically talk about your well, I mean, I know you're not both in Ukraine, but your experiences of the war so far, as a Ukrainian, maybe over the last 3 years.
Sorry. Yes, I can start a little bit from my side. Since I was like traveling a lot, I learned in my devotee life that I have to depend on Srila Prabhupada's books. And when the war started, I started to look and search in my spiritual like inquiry was directed toward how should I understand the war from the perspective of Krishna's eyes and Srila Prabhupada's instructions. And I was started inquiring like all devotees around me, what they think, how they perceive it. I started to go to senior devotees, to leaders, and I was unpleasantly surprised that most of them started to give some like strange and crazy answers that doesn't fit like shastras from what I like remember. And I started to decide, okay, I'm alone on this path, and started to like dig into shastras, and then accidentally I also found group spiritual matter where these topics were already discussed and joined the team. So far I saw like when the war started, my family we sent women and children to Poland, and me and my father-in-law, who also devotee, we were serving like for 3 months for Food for Life in Lviv, and so like hundreds of thousands people like moving and fleeing the war, and we are feeding them. Um, and then I started to I visited also Kiev and saw like terrible destructions that were left when Russian army retreated, and now I'm trying to do all my best to help even remotely with whatever resources I have to the people who need this help. Little bit about myself, my experience. Mhm.
Thank
Dina
you.
Bandhu Prabhu, over to you.
Yes, in my case, uh, we visited Ukraine in 2021, myself, my wife, and 3 children. And at that time, it was obvious that something not very pleasant will happen. It was in the air. We can feel from a social media, from a TV. Basically, it was obvious that the war is inevitable, and I thought that would be much more safer for us to leave the country, especially for us as citizens of New Zealand. So we left Ukraine in 2021. And then I was staying in touch basically pretty much every day since full-scale invasion. I got a phone call from my brother. I still have my twin brother staying in Ukraine, in Kharkiv. So he called me early in the morning and he said, yeah, war began. It's all happening. So many cities were bombed at that day, and pretty much on a third day of invasion, the region where our city is, eastern regions of Kharkiv, were invaded by Russian tanks. And we do have like a summer house nearby the city, It was partially demolished, destroyed. Our houses were partially destroyed because of bombing. So since that time, I was always staying in touch, asking devotees how they doing. There in Kharkiv city, devotees very quickly organized themselves. They took big deities from the altar, from the temple, and hide them so they won't be destroyed by the bombing. And the temple activity pretty much went to like minimal attendance by devotees because it was very dangerous to even go on the streets at that time. So at that time also I was trying to understand how to help better devotees in Ukraine. Some of them left the country, especially women with children, because the male devotees, by the law, Ukrainian law, they cannot leave the country up until age of 60. And around that time in 2022, I came across Mukunda Hari's YouTube channel when he was speaking openly about this issue because I've noticed a lot of misconceptions about understanding the cause of this war, how to react on this war, sort of false understanding of ahimsa was spreading amongst devotees, and most importantly, the message was devotees cannot be involved into any politics. We are devotees, right? And I could not reconcile this because devotees were tortured and some devotees were killed. So we began to discuss this topic with a few devotees, and it's not only four of us, it's quite a few devotees who were lately joined that project. It's not an organization as such. We're pretty much volunteers. It's a group of like-minded people who are trying to protect principles of Dharma, especially during this terrible times of war. We don't know what will happen with this project when war will be over, and hopefully it will be over soon. But right now we focused on a few very serious issues, and we will discuss them today, hopefully with the help of other devotees. And we will share some media files, some short videos, and we can discuss it.
Well, thanks to all of you for your introductions, and I've really appreciated your honesty and your sincerity, and uh, all of you, particularly something that Lubomir Prabhu said that really stuck with me around um, we joined this movement expecting something, but actually you experienced something else. You know, and you never thought in your wildest dreams you'd be challenging the leadership, you'd be speaking out. You know, you just assumed, and certainly when I joined the movement, we're all giving our years, aren't we? When I joined the movement in 2004, I thought that it was a wonderful, loving, kind, and caring, and airy fairy, and we're all friends, and we all get along. We're all surrendering to this wonderful philosophy. But then you discover that the Hare Krishna movement is just like the real world. You've got people that are right wing and left wing and in the middle and liberals and conservatives and fanatics. Some people are very strict and some people are very relaxed. And it's been an interesting experience when you don't expect to be arguing with devotees, and actually you are over very, very important
Oh, yes.
issues. And it's sad. It's really sad. So we're going to delve a bit deeper into this topic of discussion now. Can you tell us a bit about the initial reaction of the ISKCON leaders in Ukraine to the war, to the Russian invasion, to the war with Russia? And then after that, maybe tell us about a bit about the devotees' reaction. So the ISKCON leaders of Ukraine, what has their reaction been to the Russian invasion?
Yeah, yeah. Obviously, devotees are were concerned about this. Like some leaders, they said this is terrible. this is terrible thing happening, which obvious for everyone, but nothing beyond concerns and just like shaking head in disapproval. Nothing more than that was provided to devotees. The advice to leave country was provided to those who need shelter, and a few thousand devotees they left country. Some devotees they went to more safe regions, like my mother-in-law. She went to Dnipro region where she stayed there for 10 months away from her partially destroyed house. So during all this time, up until 2025, devotees in Ukraine never received any practical advice how to deal with the war properly. According to Shastra instruction, Dharmic instructions, uh, obviously we spoke with different senior devotees and leaders, and up to the point when we try to get in touch with the GBC, with the governing body commission of our society, and asking what's going on in Ukraine. Most of the religious leaders of different religious organization, they issued their very clear statement on the war. They condemned that war. They call it not adharmic, but terrible, irreligious, and we never heard anything like this from ISKCON leaders. And because why it was important, we can share what actually happened after that when devotee never received the proper instruction on this. So our devotee fellows from Russia, our neighbor country, they understood this as a license to go and join the war and start killing devotees in Ukraine. And we can share numbers of casualties and all the tragic consequences of that silence. We met with some senior devotees, some Prabhupada disciples, who actually advised us to push on. They told us that it is very hard to convey such difficult messages to GBC. Do not expect that you will be heard. We're being pretty much cut from conversation. So we're being advised make a buzz. We're being advised to create content which we can share online, present different facts, different quotes. As Lubomir Prabhu, he mentioned that he compiled a long list of different happenings, what happened in Ukraine, and the views of Srila Prabhupada and Shastric views. So I've been helping with all this media support for this campaign. But only in 2025, official ISKCON leaders in Ukraine made some vague statements. It was not even direct statements of condemning this war, but they slowly they began to understand importance of supporting those who are protecting country, not just hide behind the ahimsa principle, like we can't be involved in a killing, and they can't understand that ahimsa doesn't mean just staying neutral. It means that the key word is unnecessary killing, and it was a big misunderstanding. It's still there. It's still there. We're trying to share that our founder acharya of our society have different vision, and we rely on that vision rather than on a sort of pacifistic understanding of the situation when the family members killed, women raped, children killed, children being kidnapped. So pretty much we dedicated most of our time, despite of being, family people with our families and work, dedicating on this project, spiritual matter. And now we just began to broadcast in English slowly. we will be adding some small essays and some media sharing with our viewers. So I humbly ask our listeners to check out. The link will be provided. Hopefully, Narada Prabhu can share the
Absolutely.
links.
Yep.
Yeah, so that's pretty much was the reaction from the leaders. And just before I end, I must share that the GBC chairman was totally not aware of on about the scale of the problem. He directly was speaking with one of the main gurus in Russia, and that guru conveyed him that we are not sending devotees to war in Ukraine. We just follow the instructions of the state, Russian state, which means send people to the war. So the GBC chairman, it was good enough for him. Like, okay, you're not sending to kill, so I'll just accept that answer, which is it's not even childish. This is foolish understanding of the situation. And that chairman, he didn't know the history of Ukraine. He was under impression that all the eastern regions of Ukraine, which were occupied partially by Russia, were part of Russia a long time ago. So we could see that they don't have understanding of what's happening there, and they try to use philosophy just to sort of wash away all the warriors. And they received nice reports from Ukraine that the books are being translated, and devotees are praying and still
From the
chanting.
official
And
leadership. Yeah.
yeah, official leadership. Anyway,
Can I
let's carry on. Yeah, let's carry on.
can add? So the main problem that is disturbing is that not just like not only the silence of the like global ISKCON leadership on this problem, but even absence of desire to understand what's happening. But at the same time, silence of the global leadership and in Russia and like in post-Soviet countries like Ukraine, Kazakhstan, a lot of people speak Russian, and all the devotee community they were tending to listen to Russian preachers because Russia is become bigger country and there are more preachers. And suddenly, when the war started, we realized that most of the preachers in Russia actively support the war and justify the war. And we started to hear like same propaganda statements as we can hear from the Russian public TV, from the Vyasasanas. And it was shocking for us. Uh, and now we discovered, we understand that like almost all the Russian senior devotees and leaders and gurus and sannyasis, they support the war either publicly, either like silently, and try not to speak publicly on this topic, but still. Maybe Mukunda Hari he prepared a little more details in terms of the facts. Maybe Mukunda Hari can like share more light in terms of on this topic.
Yeah, okay. It all started with the great tragedy that struck the Vaishnava community after the beginning of Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine. The first part of this tragedy is that Russian ISKCON supported Putin's policies and the war against Ukraine. This was especially true among the leadership of Russian ISKCON. 100 persons of them supported it, and about 75% of ordinary devotees did it as well. The second part of the tragedy is the betrayal of Ukrainian followers by the global ISKCON leadership. Dozens of Ukrainian Krishna devotees took up arms and voluntarily went to defend the country. And apart from the horror of the war itself, another tragedy for Ukrainian Vaishnavas serving in the armed forces is that the religious authorities of all Gaudiya Vaishnavas organizations distance themselves from us. They distance themselves because we represent an inconvenient truth. We break the stereotype of Krishna devotees being neutral and pacifist. We are very inconvenient truth because religious leaders adjust their stance to align with India's so-called neutrality. Moreover, just like in India, the leadership of Gaudiya Vaishnava organizations have interests in Russia, where they have a large pro-Putin following, and those gurus and preachers don't want to lose this following because the leadership of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness essentially disowned the Vaishnavas in the Ukrainian army. Hundreds of these devotees were left without any support. It got to the point where ISKCON leadership banned serving prasadam to devotees in military uniform at temples. They forbade holding kirtans in memory of fallen devotees and prohibited displaying their photos in the temples. Since we are vegetarians and the Ukrainian army does not offer a vegetarian diet, some devotees had to fast and lost up to 16 kilograms. Others started eating meat. We had to create a volunteer project to take care of ourselves. Thus, the Spiritual Matter project began caring for Vaishnavas in Ukrainian Defense Forces as well for the families of the fallen. We now have nearly 200 Vaishnava soldiers on our list. We raised funds to buy essential items for them, hygiene products, clothing, insulation gear, spiritual literature, and paraphernalia. We even designed a very cool military patch for Vaishnavas with Lord Nrsimha. We have a department called Food for Dharma, where devotees prepare vegetarian prasadam rations and send them free for charge to our warriors. We also provide financial assistance to the families of fallen devotees and to those seriously wounded. So far, we have collected and spent over 1.5 million hryvnias to support Vaishnavas and their families of the fallen. We collected data and keep a list of Vaishnava soldiers. Since the beginning of the full-scale invasion, 34 Ukrainian Vaishnavas have been killed in action, 6 are missing in action, and 1 is currently a prisoner of war. Most of the missing have been accounted for over a year, which likely means they too have been killed. In addition, 3 civilian Ukrainian Vaishnavas have been killed by the Russian army. Altogether, that's 43 devotees who have died, a horrifying number. But ISKCON leadership remains silent. You won't hear anything about these fallen Ukrainian Vaishnavas. On the contrary,
I just shared the file with all the photos of
Thank you.
devotee warriors.
Yes, I understand. On the contrary, the official ISKCON new website recently deleted its entire section about the so-called conflict in Ukraine. Aside from our volunteer work, our project has made significant strides in the public space. Over the past 3 years, our YouTube channel has published 70 videos on topics related to war and Dharma. We have held live broadcasts with scholars and very well-known international preachers, including the monk Andronic. By the way, the episode reached 72,000 viewers.
It's a well-known Christian monk, monk Andronic. So we had a chat with him. It was very nice, actually. So how many? 60,000 views.
62,000 viewers.
Yeah.
The Spiritual Matter YouTube channel has grown to 25,000 subscribers. We've reached the national media level. I've given interviews on Ukrainian national television and published articles in Ukrainska Pravda. In the summer of 2024, we organized an academic conference on Vaishnava perspective on war. Beyond the main YouTube channel, Dinabandhu Prabhu, Lubomir Prabhu, and Tulsi Vallabha Prabhu each have their own channels with an additional maybe 15 videos and lectures published among them. Lubomir Prabhu compiled an excellent collection of quotes from Srila Prabhupada. We are the only ones in the Vaishnava community publicly speaking about Prabhupada's instructions on righteous defense from aggression, Dharma Yudha, and we do so at the national level. We are also the only Vaishnava project with completely transparent financial reporting. Nilchandra Prabhu documents every single expense, and we publish those reports. Thank you.
Thank you, Mukunda Hari Prabhu, for all of that. I really, really appreciate it. And I really appreciate you sharing those statistics around the number of soldiers, devotee soldiers. Can you you said something, and maybe the others can confirm. I just want to, so our viewers and listeners are aware. I think Mukunda Hari Prabhu said that at ISKCON temples in Ukraine, kirtans for fallen soldiers have been banned. Can you just confirm that? Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, it was banned for some time, and they uplift the ban when it started to get too much public attention, like from the Ukrainian general public, because Ukrainian society was outraged when they started to hear such things, and then they kind of changed the situation.
And we know that in the capital, in the Kiev temple, they introduced some prayer just recently, and I think they do it on a regular basis. I don't know if they
After
still do
3
it.
years of full scale invasion,
After a few
they
years of
started,
the war, they realized maybe it's a good
not
idea
realized,
to
but
pray
we press for them from through Ukrainian society, and they scared and try to do something like
to make an image.
try to comply with public
I can
pleasure or public view.
Yeah, to make it more kind of visual, maybe Dinabandhu Prabhu can share some fragments how it looks like. So these numbers, 30 almost 40 died devotees. Like we gathered the statistics, and up until recently, ISKCON authorities, even in Ukraine, they didn't have any numbers, and the answer was kind of something like it's not our business.
The answer was we haven't sent them there, so we don't know exactly how many.
Yes, how many died, etc. So it's kind of we don't have mental energy to think about such things. Sounds like this. And
they started to collect numbers at November 2024.
Yeah, only after it started.
It was because I think that openly that Achyutapriya Prabhu should go с его должности.
Yeah, so what he's mentioning Achyutapriya Prabhu, he's the regional secretary for Ukraine. So up until
GBC.
2024,
he's a
GBC. Okay. Yeah, all that subject connected to the war wasn't discussed much at all.
And maybe now they started to gradually like pick it up and make it like we feel it's more making an image to somehow like change perception in the Ukrainian society. But in terms of the Russian side, Dina Banhu Prabhu can share some videos so you understand
Yes.
what kind of preachings we can hear from Russian side.
Yeah, just before I share the video, I need to mention that the devotee speaking on that video, he's initiating guru with a few thousand followers in Russia, and Nilachandra Prabhu is his disciple, and he was trying to get in touch with his guru and the wife of his guru.
I can comment on it, share
Yeah,
details
and
after the
then he
video.
comment after that. So I'll just share. It's
Yes,
two
please.
videos from Chaitanya Chandra Charan Prabhu. That's his name. So the first video is when he is saying that everyone in Russia need to comply with.
So this is a like recording of the official kind of leadership meeting of among like Russian leaders, and it was publicly broadcasted to the community, to Russian community, with discussion of the topics of the war. And so everyone like who was like thinking what they should do about the war in Russia, they kind of like could reference to this leadership meeting where these instructions were given to devotees.
Don't fall into depression or panic. As for military actions, this is also relates to our duty as soldiers, to the laws of the state. There is not just something imposed on me by fate, unfair, and this is what I must do in my destiny, my duty. So here, my friends, I think everyone should figure out their own situation and take responsibility for their decisions and duties. No, it's not just that, not just that. There are still laws of the state. We need to remember that the question has been posed to me very correctly. Not everything I decide. I mean, within the framework of the law. Yes, within the framework, I don't decide everything. You see, yes, sometimes just have to. I don't ask, should I go or not go somewhere? I have to do this because the law is like this. The time is like this. The circumstances are like this. I must fulfill my duty according to this law, the modern one that exists, the circumstances. So what question could there be? If I were asked, will you go there or not, then the question would be relevant. Should I go or not go? Yes, if I decide that, but I may not longer have to decide that. So here I submit to the will of fate. I understand this is the will of Krishna.
Yeah, so basically, I can quickly comment on that. So until now, there were not criminal cases recorded for those who was not agreeing go to war in the whole entire Russia. What to speak about the community of devotees. So if you don't want to go to the war, you will not be killed or put in a jail in Russia. That's a propaganda. And what Chaitanya Chandra Charan is saying, we just accept that as the will of Krishna. Go to war and kill your brothers and sisters in faith there. I'd like to play another video. It's a bit longer than the first one. It was recorded later. During the public program, Chaitanya Chandra Charan was asked about the destiny of those who was sent to this war, and especially those who are died during
Russian
this war.
soldiers.
Russian soldiers. So.
Hello, my name is Elena. You said that what you do will come back to you. That is to say, if you kill, you will be killed. The guys who are currently in the special military operation, well, seem to be defending the motherland. What should they do? What should they do? Yes, what will come to them? It is their duty. What awaits them? It's a duty. It's different. Those who die fulfilling their duty rise higher. They're cleansed of their karma.
There are two types of glorious death, as written in the Vedas. The first is when a person dies fulfilling their duty, perishes, and the second, in a yogic trance. This is a glorious death. In other cases, no. Heroes are purified. And there is one such heroic act that when a person performs it, cleanses them of all karma very strongly. Literally, as the ancients said, when soldiers, warriors were afraid, running away from the battlefield, then leaders would say, as described in the Puranas, "Where are you running to? What will you gain by avoiding the battle? If you indeed die on the battlefield, you reach the higher planets. If you win, you conquer a kingdom. What do you lose? In neither case do you lose. But what do you gain if you do not fulfill your duty? You lose your reputation, you lose your honor, and you lose everything by saving your life. Therefore, for a warrior, it is an honor to die on the battlefield. That is honor."
Here we go. What's Narada Prabhu, what's your first reaction after hearing this instruction or explanation?
This video is still in public space, in internet.
We can provide all the links if needed.
My first reaction is I'm shocked and horrified to hear it. And just before we played that, one of you made the comment about 1939 in Germany, and how if you go along with this idea that it's your duty to always follow the state, that isn't necessarily the case. And I'm just very shocked to hear that these are ISKCON leaders in Russia that are basically justifying the war or the illegal invasion of Ukraine. And it's almost like to kind of pander to the Russian state, isn't it? To be wanting to fit in, wanting to be popular. You know, we're ISKCON in Russia, and yes, we're pro-Putin, and we're pro this kind of nationalistic agenda. And it's very similar to the rise of Christian nationalism in America. This bizarre cult around Christians supporting Donald Trump. I would say it's kind of a similar thing, and everything Trump says is gospel, so to speak. Thank you for sharing those the videos. Is there another video as well that you have, particularly in relation to?
There's an
ISKCON's
Here's another
leaders in
video,
Russia
and the person his name is Bhakti Rasayana Sagar Swami. He's the citizen, by the way, of Great Britain, and he's known to many devotees in England. He was part of Great Britain Yatra at some point, so he's quite prominent preacher, and he openly glorifies Putin, who is pretty much convicted criminal, killing and stealing and plundering another country. So he was asked about what he can say about Putin, and he was speaking in poetry. It's not translated as a poetry in English, but that's what he's saying.
Which verse from the Bhagavad Gita describes our president? Chapter 18, verse 43, I think fits very well and strains heroism, determination, courage, and fearlessness. The ability to lead, resourceful and generous to be. There are many qualities by nature in those who are kshatriyas by birth. Kshatriya is a ruler, a warrior king, meaning it's those who lead society.
So it's as you said, Narada, it's very similar when the dictator is proclaimed to be a king or a ruler. So now we see ISKCON sannyasi openly calling the criminal a king or a kshatriya, ideal ruler. I'm not asking you what's your comments about this. We have we have another
Yes.
slides to share, and I think it's very important if we move to quotes of
Do you
Srila
have the video
Prabhupada.
where this Sagar Bhaktirasana Sagar Swami he says about mobilization, like taking the war?
No, I don't have that video, but we can say that he was.
Okay.
It's another video where he thinking, should you be mobilized or not to go to the war? And he said, actually, same message as Chaitanya Chandra Charan Prabhu was
Because state is
conveying.
taking care of us, we should
Yes, yeah, you
support the
should
state and
comply.
fulfill your duty. Yeah.
Yes, pretty
So
much.
this is what we shared is only kind of like fraction of percent of what materials are published and what is available like in Russian. So it's just kind of to give a glimpse for the international audience what's happening actually in Russia. And like Mukunda Hari is publishing on his channel a huge amount of information and quotes and like what they say just to make people aware about it.
And all the current ventures, the Russian devotees are feeding the soldiers. They go to the hospitals. They glorify the soldiers who are defending their country on their opinion.
Food
And
for life.
now,
Russian Food
yeah,
for Life, the feeding Russian soldiers.
yeah, that's a huge issue when they're under name of Food for Life program. They integrated this program into military sort of military how you say
Like support wing.
Joining venture so they distribute prasadam with Russian militaries behind them with a machine gun, and they pretty much using Food for Life program as a link to Russian government. And I think Mukunda Hari, you prepared something about Kiriyenka. It's a sort of one of the top guys from Russian government. He is a good friend with Food for Life mission in Russia, and it's one of the biggest propaganda guys in Russia. They wear military attire during Harinams. When they go to Harinam, they put military sort of I don't know, hats
attributes.
and
This
attributes. And then
this is in
9th
Russia.
of May
This is in
coming
Russia.
soon. In Russia.
Yeah,
This is in Russia. We're talking about Russia, especially in Moscow. They're famous for large Harinam processions using different symbols of communist propaganda times. So that's what's happening currently in our society in Russia. And maybe Lubomir can comment, because he's been dealing a lot about the situation when the leaders saying, if we will say openly about this issue, our society can be harmed in Russia, can be closed, and devotees will be persecuted. And Lubomir can share pretty much like official view on that Russian ISKCON, it's not even ISKCON, right? As such. Can you say something about this?
Before we jump to Lubomir.
Can I just say something?
Sorry, Narada, jumping ahead.
Can I just say something very quickly? I just wanted to clarify. I want to clarify for our viewers and listeners, because there's a lot of information they're receiving today, and for some of them it might be quite surprising. But I just want to clarify for our viewers and listeners, we have just watched films, we have just watched videos that show ISKCON leaders in Russia endorsing the illegal invasion of Ukraine. We have just seen ISKCON sannyasis and gurus officially endorsing the war, the invasion of Ukraine, and the killing of thousands of innocent people. We've just seen those films, and I just want that for everyone watching and listening to sink in, because we are presenting, our friends here are presenting a lot of information. Some of you might find difficult to understand, to stomach, it might be surprising. I just want to really emphasize that point. Okay, back to whoever was gonna speak next.
Yes, I wanted to jump in a little bit and comment about Chaitanya Charan Prabhu, as I'm his disciple. before we jump to like philosophical part that Lubomir can share. Even before he started to make such very like controversial statements publicly, when the war started, I tried to reach out to like my Gurudeva and ask it, look, like something is going to happen, and I felt that the Russian devotees may go and participate into this war. And I tried to ask him, maybe you as a like, because he's one of the most popular or one of the most, I would say, probably he has the biggest amount of disciples among the Russian-speaking countries. You are a big authority and everyone listens to you. If you can say something that will cool down the heads in Russia, it may save some lives. And he forwarded his initial reply to me, well, like this is all karma, it's all like mix it up and we can do nothing. We just have to watch how it unfolds, etc. And then after he already made these statements about the like mobilization publicly, I tried to like reach out to him like once more, and he didn't reply to me, but through like this official channel for disciples. But then some God brothers gave me personal contacts of his wife, and I reached out to her, and we had a chat maybe like several weeks. We had like chatted every day, and we had several calls with Guru Maharaja, and they kind of they tried to step back, say that we didn't mean what you understood. Probably you in Ukraine have like a lot of emotions because of the current situation. You misunderstood us, and then we made a like a brief survey of how Russian disciples understand his instructions. And then all of them replied, whoever replied, all of them replied that it was very clear that we should participate or we should not try to avoid participation in the mobilization. And after this, they stopped communication with me, like when received, and through this channel. And then again, I was invited to like close disciple meeting to ask questions to Guru Maharaja. And the most disappointing thing to me was not the fact that my Gurudeva has some like certain understanding of events in this world. He may not dig enough into this, etc. But the biggest disappointment was how he handled the situation and how he was trying to like not like avoid all the discussions or ignore the requests from the disciples. And eventually, I tried to like wrote him a respectful but sincere message. It's hard for me to continue to listen to your lectures, and I feel that I'm losing faith in terms of you were my role model for like many years, and now I don't feel such inspiration. And can we please have a sincere and open discussion about all of this and about the war? And he just said to me, well, like, I can't help you. You can find somebody else to listen to and to start from. So just kind of go away. And then I found that there are multiple other disciples and like God brothers and God sisters who received the same answer. So kind of I'm not giving you shelter anymore, like, or I can find somebody else. Like as soon as they started to like be persistent on non-convenient questions to him. So kind of this is the pitiful situation. And I wanted to add a few more like kind of personal stories that we heard over this war, because this is not just some devotees participating in the war from the Russia side, some devotees defending in Ukraine. This is actually devotees killing devotees, and we had situation when one Ukrainian devotee who served military, he was called by his like brothers in arms. Hey, like we got in captivity your brother from Russia, like some Krishna guy. Like please talk to him. And he came to him, and it was turned out that it was my god brother, disciple of Chaitanya Charan Prabhu, and he was chatting with Rama, our devotee who serves Chita Krishna Prabhu, who serves military, and he just repeated to him the same like Russian state media propaganda from his words, explaining why he like went to Ukraine, etc. And then another story, so we can say devotees meeting devotees on the front line. And another story was that Russian devotee.
Nilchandra, was it this guy who said that I'm like Hanuman trying to burn Lanka? Is it this? Is it the case?
Maybe I don't know. Like
Yeah,
there
yes,
are
yes.
multiples. Yes.
We-
Okay. Yes. Yeah. So believe they firmly believe that they're doing something like according to Krishna's will. Another story was that a Russian devotee was missing for 6 months or something like this, and we had his photos, like announcement from the social media that he went missing on the front line from the Russian side of war, and then after 6 months, Ukrainian devotee who served in military, he found some remnants of the dead bodies on the in trenches, and he found his ID card and his military documents, and with remnants of his military jackets or something like this. So we understood that 99% that he was dead. So you can imagine that devotees found kind of his body. Yeah, so this is actually happening, and this is happening because of the endorsement from the Russian side and silence from the international side.
Yeah, I just want to add that can you picture a situation when two Krishnas fighting with each other? And it's literally what's happening as the military guys, they have nicknames, like shorter nicknames. They use it during the operation. So on the Russian side, there was a guy with a nickname Krishna. And usually they have, it's written on their uniform. On the Ukrainian side, we also had a devotee with the nickname Krishna. And as for right now, they both dead. So because of this propaganda, Krishna is fighting with Krishna. So it's like a crazy coincidence, or I don't know how to describe this situation. So the Krishna is coming to kill another Krishna.
One of these Ukrainian Krishna is defending people, but Russian Krishna was aggressor. It's
interesting.
It's different.
Mukunda, I want to add that we also have one extra Krishna who is still fighting. He is a well-known devotee. He's my god brother, and he is not killed yet. And so we hope he will not be. And he received the top level how you call it appreciation from the hand award from the hand of a top military commands in Ukraine. So our Ukrainian devotees are trying hard defending their country, and they're being noticed. So they are not just ordinary people. They are
showing exemplary courage.
Exemplary courage, and they're fighting as much as hard as possible, as hard as they can, to end this war, winning this war. Lubomir Prabhu, you being silent for a long time, please share you part of this journey of defending Dharma.
Okay, thank you very much. So I will just make a short presentation of our collection of Srila Prabhupada's quotes. It's quite a big document because basically it's the result of.
I have three quotes as a separate pictures. Yes. If you want, I can share the screen as well.
I will ask you. Yes, Dhanabandhu Prabhu, I will ask you to show it. In the meantime, I just wanted to say that it's the result of 2 months of extensive fighting and debating and discussions with devotees on the topic of war from the point of view of Krishna consciousness philosophy, and basically it consisting from several chapters, how to relate to the war in Ukraine from the level of Varnashram Dharma. Because all the devotees in the beginning of the war, and even today, they start preaching, all this high philosophy about Prahlad Maharaj, about Hare Krishna Thakur, and they are telling Ukrainian devotees under bombs, that you should just act like Prahlad Maharaj. But basically, this is a sahajiya. This is the sahajiya. This is totally ignorant suggestion. It's like telling a child to act like a grown-up. So nobody is on the level of Prahlad Maharaj. Nobody is a Paramahamsa. Moreover, I don't know such devotees who are even on the level of liberated souls. That they are completely unattached, completely above the modes. For them, suffering and happiness is equal, and so on. Everyone wants justice for himself, and everyone wants, protection. So the next section is on the position of neutrality, because devotees also presented this position that devotees should be neutral to terror, to killing of devotees, and it's also philosophically absolutely ignorant and crazy idea. Again, these devotees, they tell it to Ukrainian devotees, but when it comes to themselves, nobody of these preachers of neutrality would accept neutrality to aggression in their side. Nobody would say, I am okay with you being neutral to my beating up or to my being robbed of my possession. Nobody. But to Ukrainian devotees, this like common devotees, and even spiritual masters, even sannyasis, even gurus, they preach this crazy idea that Vaishnava is neutral to killing of women, children, elderly people, and devotees. Vaishnava is a person who wants to serve the devotees, right? I am the servant of the servant of the servant. And how crazy is this idea that when a Vaishnava sees other Vaishnava being killed, tortured, or raped, he should be neutral to it? It's demonic and totally crazy, even not from the religious point of view. It's even from the basic moral level, of a civilized person. So here we have some arguments and explanations why devotees cannot be neutral. These explanations are based on Shastra. These explanations are based, and arguments are based on Srila Prabhupada's instructions. Also some articles here, and the next section is the description of different levels of reality perception, or what floor do I live on. So another big problem is that devotees don't understand their actual spiritual level. They think that they are Paramahamsas, that they are Uttamadhikaris, maybe a Madhyama Adhikaris, I don't know. But according to descriptions from the Shastra, it's a sahajiya, and it's totally unacceptable for a devotee who is on the level of Kanishka to imitate a devotee who is a Madhyama or an Uttama. Everybody knows it from the next nectar of instructions, right? So basically, this is, in short, presentation of our of our like philosophical base, of our position that every devotee who considers himself a follower of Srila Prabhupada, he cannot be neutral to killing of women, children, and devotees in Ukraine. He should condemn it, because if he does not condemn it, it means that he is also, he is engaged in criminal inaction. And I would like to ask Dinabandhu Prabhu to show some quotes by Srila Prabhupada where he explains these things. Largely, these quotes are unknown, and nobody, not even one ISKCON preacher, is quoting them publicly. Although, like majority of them do have these quotes, because I printed this collection of quotes, and I gave, I don't know, at least to 10, and I've sent as emails at least to 10, maybe even more sannyasis and gurus in ISKCON. Even in 2022, many of them already had these quotes, and nobody wanted to quote them. So Dinabandhu Prabhu, can you please share? We don't hear you.
Let's share the first one. And just before reading this, I want to say that we hear a lot of thoughts that the war in Ukraine is not a religious war. So, like, if that would be religious war, we might participate. But this is a demoniac war. And in this quote, Srila Prabhupada addressing students an international student association in Cambridge. He's not addressing a pure devotees assembly. He's addressing a proper young citizens, and he's trying to convey the message from the Vedic scriptures. And he says, these instructions, these directions are there in the Vedic literatures. It is said, if somebody kidnaps your wife, if somebody sets fire in your house, somebody comes to kill you, then he is understood as aggressor and you can kill him immediately. There is no question of non-violence. These are Shastric instructions. So that's a first quote, and it's obviously it's a message about the basic principle of Dharma, protecting your subordinates, protecting your house, and this war is breaking all the rules. Thousands
It's
and
actually
thousands people were killed in this war, and the cities being plundered and burned down. So the Prabhupada gives a very direct suggestion: you can kill him, aggressor, immediately.
it's
Krishna
actually the same
Vachandra.
instructions are in Bhagavad Gita, second chapter in the comments. But when we try to ask pleaders to, can you please repeat this on the lecture? Like they refuse.
Okay, so I'll just share
Other.
another quote, which is from 1973 from my poor lecture in Srimad Bhagavatam class. Prabhupada. So fighting whimsically by the politicians, that is not sanctioned. There must be Dharma Yuddha. Dharma Yuddha means religious fight on the religious principles. So what was the religious principle? Here it is said, Hatva Atataina. Atatai means aggressor. If somebody comes to your home to kidnap your wife, to take by force your property, or to set fire in your house, he is called Atatai. He should immediately be killed. It is not that non-violence nonsense. If somebody is coming to attack you unnecessarily, you must kill him first. It is not Vaishnavism. Oh, this man is coming to kill me. All right, let me embrace him. No, that is not the rule. When there is Atatai, aggressor, you must fight, you must kill. That is religious. That's the second quote, and it's not like Prabhupada once or twice mentioned this information. It's a dozen of quotes like this, and I'll just share the last one, so we can see he speaks about the same message over and over, and that would be lecture in 1973 in Los Angeles. Prabhupada, what is a religious fight? Religious fight means you have got right to kill your aggressor. If somebody takes your property, if somebody sets fire in your house, if somebody kidnaps your wife, or somebody is trying to kill you, they are called aggressor. So aggressor should be killed immediately. It is not that somebody has become an aggressor, and if I say, no, I have become a Vaishnava, I'll not be violent, I shall tolerate. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has taught us to be tolerant like the tree on the grass. So I shall become tolerant. Let him do. And Prabhupada saying, just like Gandhi used to say, somebody questioned him that if somebody comes and violates the chastity of your daughter in your presence, what will you do? He said, I shall remain non-violent. But that is not Shastric injunction. This is foolishness. Here we go.
And I would
So,
like
yeah.
to add one more important philosophical aspect of what we are dealing with. Another common argument of neutrality position, of devotees with neutrality position, that it is karma. It is karma of devotees, it is karma of Ukraine, it is all politics, why we should, engage in it. But the problem is that devotees don't really understand the relation between the law of karma and the law of dharma. Now, a person is drowning. It is his karma. Or somebody has a toothache, right? It is our karma. Does it mean that we shouldn't do anything about it and just accept it and be neutral to it? But nobody can be neutral to toothache. I don't know such devotees who can be neutral to toothache. So when we talk about a situation, yes, it may be a karma. In any case, nobody knows the intricacies of karma. We're just speculating, in fact. But what everyone should do in a particular situation, that is governed by the law of dharma. So we cannot use the law of karma in understanding what is our duty and how we should act. Because the law of karma just tells you it is justful, you shouldn't do anything, you should accept it. And that's it. We cannot, and imagine a person, having a toothache, or imagine a devotee who is walking on the street and a dog, some crazy dog attacks this devotee and starts chewing his leg. Is it his karma? Yes, it is his karma. So what will he do? He will just look at this dog chewing his leg and say, oh, it's my karma. What can I do? Let's be neutral to it.
Well, they can imitate who was that, Maharaj Yayati, or another great Maharaj who was feeding his flesh to the vulture, saying, if they will not eat, they will suffer. Yeah. So if someone wants to imitate this, they're welcome to do so.
It's totally crazy and unpractical and ignorant to use the law of karma in determining what is your duty. So all the devotees, all the rational and sane people, they need to use the law of dharma, the law of duty, in determining what they should do. And this is, also a big problem because even in communicating and asking for help, other devotees and other groups of devotees that are fighting for Dharma, we tried to cooperate with them. And there were two groups. One is called Dharma Sangha, and the other group is called Vedic Inquirer, Protection of Children. So when we address them, to cooperate, when we ask them to help us, also with publishing our petition, we will talk about it in a minute. They refused to publish our articles, and they deleted our petition to GBC, explaining all this on the grounds that it is karma and politics. So can you imagine, even devotees who fight for dharma, for protection of children, they don't understand this relationship between karma and dharma, what we should how we should determine our actions on. So they deleted our petition and refused to help us. And this is the problem of philosophical, education.
Yeah. Can you just clarify, Lubomir, because our viewers and listeners are receiving a lot of information that they need to digest. So the Vedic Inquirer Facebook group,
yes,
which is quite a well-populated group. I think it's got over 6,000 members, which is a group that has done a lot of great things over the years on campaigning against child abuse in ISKCON. So you've also got a petition, which I signed, a petition for the GBC. You shared the petition in the Vedic Inquirer group because there has been, what word could I use? Huge levels of child abuse in this war. So it has been documented.
2,500 children were killed. Moreover, there were incidents of child rape and child abuse by Russian soldiers in Ukraine. Moreover, we have more than 30 devotees who are also fathers and whose children were left without their fathers.
And I also understand that a large number of children have been kidnapped from Ukraine and taken to Russia and given new identities.
Yes,
That's
just
a mass form
terrible.
of child abuse. Yeah. So I'm disappointed to hear that the people who run the Vedic Inquirer group didn't allow that to be shared. And you also mentioned Dharma Sangha as well. What kind of dialogue have you had with them?
Well, we wanted, to cooperate and share also our story, our articles, Srila Prabhupada's quotes. But again, when we were communicating, it was all well. But when we got, to the point of starting publishing our material, they refused because they also started repeating the Russian propaganda narratives and saying that this is not Dharma Yuddha. Demons are fighting demons. It's all politics. Russia is fighting USA with the hands of Ukrainians, and practically all the typical Russian propaganda narratives. And they refuse to publish our articles with Srila Prabhupada's quotes. We are not imagining or fantasizing something of our own. We're just quoting Srila Prabhupada, and they refused, to publish it.
Well, unfortunately, in my opinion, the Hare Krishna movement, like most religions, we're often very guilty of picking and choosing. We take the quotes of Prabhupada that we like, that sound comfortable. I remember listening to a talk by Hridayananda Maharaj a couple of years ago, where he gave reference to, I think, Srimad Bhagavatam 4, I've got it written down somewhere, Srimad Bhagavatam Canto 4, 854, where in Prabhupada's purport, he talks about the importance of time, place, and circumstance. Whereas what works in India might not work in the Western countries. You can't expect the Westerners to be like the Indians. You have to try things differently. And his complaint was that a lot of the ISKCON leaders don't like to quote that because actually, it doesn't fit in with their narrative. And I think often we can become like the Christians who pick something from the Bible that because it sounds really important and actually it's just one thing. And we need to accept everything that Prabhupada said and understand the context that it was given in. I mean, for me, it was a complete no-brainer that I should interview you today. Um, I think sometimes when we say, well, it's the demons fighting the demons, Westerners in Britain, we would understand that like the Jehovah's Witnesses. Jehovah's Witnesses don't vote because they say, well, it's all of the devil, and we don't want to encourage them. But actually, I think we have a duty to get involved with political discourses. We need to, because we all have values and we have opinions. And so for me, it was a complete no-brainer that I should interview today because it's really, really important. I'm disappointed to hear that those other groups haven't engaged with you. Have there been any Gaudiya Vaishnav leaders at all that have kind of spoken out in favor of Ukrainian devotees or of spiritual matter?
Before we move to discussion, can I add one more interesting
Yes.
quote that I find very inspiring and like very important? It's Srimad Bhagavatam 4.21.26, and it's the verse of Srimad Bhagavatam. I request all the pure-hearted demigods, forefathers, and saintly persons to support my proposal, for after death, the result of an action is equally shared by its doer, its director, and its supporter. So, and it means that like Putin did is very smart thing. He
Who is saying this verse? Can you clarify? Who is approaching whom?
I don't remember. Like it's Maharaja Prithu chapter. Yes, and so Putin did very smart thing. He wrote out full, like large-scale propaganda to make most of the population to support this war and Hare Krishna leaders as well. And you can imagine amount of tragedies and sufferings that this war brought to Ukraine. Like some cities literally leveled down to the like non-existence, and they never. I don't think they ever be restored because it just like nothing left there, and some big cities as well. And you can imagine how many people died, how many families separated, etc. And all the sufferings shared not only by Putin but by soldiers, but also by everyone who supports. And when we hear that Hare Krishna leaders they support this war, they also take some part of this karma. And when we hear that, when we do not hear any condemnation from like other leaders, it means that like in legal system there is a concept of harm in action. So if you are not helping somebody, or if you see that somebody is like killing another person, and you are just sitting idle and not doing anything, then you are complicit in the act. And like so, this verse explains that they unfortunately we all as a society in majority we will see some serious consequences of this bad karma, like a wave, like covering like ISKCON leaders and consciousness of ISKCON leaders. And yeah, so this is kind of pity to see. Yeah, sorry.
Thank you, Prabhu, for sharing that. So I'm conscious we've been talking for a long time, which is great.
You ask about Narada. You ask about
of course, I asked about leaders,
yes,
didn't
yes.
I? Gaudiya
Yeah,
Vaishnav
the leaders.
Yeah.
Again, as I mentioned initially, a few Gaudiya Vaishnava leaders we spoke to, they offered us like moral support, so to speak. They said, we understand this is difficult situation. You should be focused on your Krishna consciousness, on your daily activities, praying, and trying to attentively hear the holy name, this sort of instructions, which are fantastic, and we rely on them. But nothing was offered in terms of practical solution or open discussions on this subject matter. So far, we recorded the leader of one of the Gaudiya Mats, Srila Bodhayan Maharaj. In one of his conversation, he just repeated pretty much word by word the quote that we just read by Prabhupada. When aggressor comes and nothing can be done, like in terms of arguing verbally, asking please leave, and if it's threatening the life of your family, you can, and he said, you can chop off the head of this aggressor. So that was said openly and was recorded. And rather than this one, we don't have any open sort of support in terms of.
Patri
Yeah.
Prabhu. Patri Prabhu
Oh,
was
yes. Yeah, we have some friends with Ukrainian origin. Yes, he's my very good friend. He's actually responsible for preaching in Nepal. Patri Prabhu. He's well known in Nepal and in some places in India. Yes, he just recently, a few months ago, we had conversation with him, and he's supporting the idea of defending Dharma, and he condemning Putin's aggression. Yes, so he's very firm with his support and his views. Again, we're receiving some messages of support, but when we talk about can you show support openly, for example, one of the sannyasis, he said, if I'll do this, they will take my danda away. So sort of like my sannyasa will be questioned, my position will be questioned. Of course, we received some financial help. Ukrainian devotees received quite substantial, about 100 grand of US dollars were collected in the US in 2022 by Niranjan Maharaj and Kuladri Prabhu and some other devotees. And Ukraine did receive those funds, which were spent on helping families and also buying some equipment like generators. But that support was stopped pretty much like 2 years ago. So
there is no generators.
yeah, they bought some, but not using all the $100,000 for that. So that's another question. We don't have as Nila Chandra provides clear debit and credit, all the receipts. We don't know where all the money went in Ukraine, but that help was sent by some ISCKON centers. Since that time, there is no financial support for Ukrainian devotees. Some devotees do help. As recently, I was speaking with Priyavrata Prabhu, former Food for Life coordinator, who runs his own yoga food program. He does support some vegan prasadam distribution in Ukraine, time to time, but it's insignificant when we talk to the scale of the problem now. So maybe we can talk about Food for Dharma project now, Mukunda. What do you think?
Yes, please.
Yes, but you should say about that because I
Yes,
don't prepare anything.
yes. We created a project with the name Food for Dharma, where the group of devotees in Kremenchuk in Ukraine, volunteers, very nice devotees, dedicated people, they cook prasadam and professionally package those portions, as they called, like in a proper packaging, and it's done like in a large quantity because 200 plus devotees are currently actively serving as a military defending Ukraine. So we set up, of course, within the Ukraine, devotees send some donations locally using the local banks, but we set up a Patreon page, and I'll see if I can share that on the screen.
I can
Oh yeah,
show.
he can show.
Oh,
A
thank
bit
you.
further. Yeah, close. keep it a bit, yeah, like
it's a
closer
very
to
weird.
you.
Yeah, it's very
Yeah.
difficult sometimes to show things, but I can just about see it. Thank you for that. And that's like a packet of prashadam. It's
Yes, yeah, they cook different dishes. They cook khichdi, different porridges, even the soup, Ukrainian borscht
Борщ.
cooked, and also different sweets sent there, and also medical equipment, and different help is offered. Again, so financial help to the families of those who lost their husbands and fathers. So I'll just share that. That's the address URL of the Patreon page. It's called Food for Dharma, and um, whoever thinks they might contribute just a little bit even to this project when we feed the devotees who really need proper prasadam food offered to Krishna, and which will give them strength to do their duties. You can scan QR code on the screen, or just go to Patreon and maybe become a little donor to helping us to support Vaishnavas who are fighting to protect their families.
Thank you
Food
for
for karma. Food for karma, because on the side of Russian devotees, Russian food for life, they they feed Russian soldiers, and when they gave to them these sweets and some prasadam, this is like something like, oh, you cool guys, you are heroes.
Yeah,
Um,
they're sanctioning by that support, they sanctioning what they do. And what they do, they just kill innocent citizens of another country and devotees of Krishna. So far, the few temples were destroyed in Ukraine. I think it's 4 temples which stopped functioning after bombing, isn't it, Lubomir? 4 temples. Um, then 2 civilians were killed. The
three
devotee,
civilian.
yeah. You have some info about
Can I just
civilians?
ask before Mukunda Hari gives us those statistics? The leaders of those 4 ISKCON temples that have been destroyed, are they still are they still being neutral?
Yes,
It's hard to
yes, of
say.
course. Yes, of course. Because because religious escapism. This is religious escapism. Astronauts, like we call them. Uh,
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's the same Swami who we showed, Sagar Swami. He was making a joke, which is totally pathetic. He went actually to occupied territories and to the one region where the temple was destroyed, and he said, well, they had some difficulties to complete the construction, so Krishna helped them. So he destroyed that temple, and he might send something better. So they talk in a such way, which is not funny at all. I think it's pretty much demonic, what they say about the situation. So the death
Ukrainian
of
leaders,
civilians.
Ukrainian leaders and preachers like from Kiev, they openly uh, uh, told that they are Brahmanas and they are neutral and don't take a side, not Ukrainian side, not Russian side. They neutral. They Brahmanas.
So, which I think it's a fine if a Brahmana is not capable to fight, we can understand. Not all of us can physically be soldiers, but the duty of Brahmana is always telling the truth, and that was ignored largely in our society. And the aim of our conversation today to focus on this big problem. So we're sharing, it's pretty much like we cry for help. Please try to understand that devotees don't have the level of support which is supposed to be within a religious organization. And moreover, we have quotes from our founder Acharya, who gives very clear instructions what to do in this critical situation. And would be interesting to see the comments from viewers of the Hare Krishna Project, how devotee will react on all this information. And I'm feeling sorry sharing all this because we meant to share nectarian stories and read some pastimes of Krishna. Instead, we are telling that one Krishna comes to kill another Krishna. But that's a reality for some of members of our society, especially in Ukraine.
And I think often that's the fear that members of ISKCON or the Hare Krishna movement will have. There's that fear of speaking out. And I remember when I first started to speak out against things that I was unhappy about, I felt guilty. I felt really guilty, and I felt like I was the bad person. But actually, then you realize, no, you have to speak out against injustice. You know, we're kind of called to do that. We are allowed to do that. You have to speak in favor of truth and speak out against injustice, just as Prabhupada did. Just as Prabhupada did. Um, I'm. We've shared a lot of really useful information today, which I'm grateful for. A question I have for you is, what would you like to come from this podcast? How would you, what, I mean, we know what your message is, but what response would you like now from the devotee community to those viewing and watching this?
May I start with something practical? We have compiled a petition to GBC with more than 160 signatures of devotees. We will leave a link under this video where we ask GBC to reconsider their position of silence, where we ask them questions. How can they, being fathers, our fathers, how can they be silent and neutral, to the fact that their sons in Ukrainian are being killed by their sons in Russia? It's totally unacceptable. No normal father would say that I will be neutral to killing of my younger son by my older son. So we have a petition. So if anyone wants to support us, to support Ukrainian devotees, we will leave an email, and you can just write your name and country you're from to this email, and we will add your name to this petition. We have already sent it to the GBC and to more than 130 ISKCON leaders. I suppose they are in the process of reading it, but I suppose.
Yeah, so far you got just several replies with a very plain reaction, very plain instructions. Something like you're not this body. You shouldn't be considering yourself Ukrainian, etc., etc. Something like that. It came from two ISKCON leaders.
Astronauts.
Yeah. But in any case, all the Western devotees who want to actually do something, please write an email and we will add your name. And this petition will go to the history of ISKCON, and I'm sure someday there will be written a book how ISKCON went through this war, and that there were these devotees who voiced their protest against the position of neutrality and silence and support of this injustice.
We already have all these 3 years full-scale invasion. We already have some переписка. Скажи про переписки наши.
Correspondence.
Расскажи.
Correspondence with whom?
Ну, с кем мы переписывались? С кем мы общались?
Yeah, he just the Mukunda Hari want to share our correspondence, as we had a lot of going back and forth with different leaders, and to put it in a short, it is very disappointing, very disappointing. Although we had some support, overall, at some point, devotee being blaming us, like Lubomir was even called the idiot because he was trying to convey the message. And devotee, I'm so surprised to see how persistent devotee in arguing all those very basic principles we are trying to communicate and share with devotees. So, to your question, what we expect, and even this petition, we do not expect that petition to be like actually processed by GBC. I don't think it will happen, but just doing our own, fulfilling our own call for action and our own duties, we purify our conscience and our heart. And that's what we're giving option to others to join this. And even for 2 or 3 days of that petition being on a Vedic Inquirer, we got a few devotees from international community who did sign that petition. And thank you, Narada Prabhu, also offering your voice to support us. And again, thanks for inviting us to this conversation. Maybe it was a bit rough. Subject matter is rough, is painful, but it is what it is.
Does Mukunda Hari Prabhu want to share some correspondence? Do you? Yes. Yes.
I don't. I don't
I thought
know.
you had. I thought you
My
had some.
English
Maybe
not so well.
had some letters
Well,
or something.
I think, I think he just in general want to say that we had a lot of interactions with different devotees, and see the many devotees, even if they support us, they don't want to go public. We have like hundreds and hundreds audio messages from different devotees, even from senior devotees, but they specifically ask us, do not mention our name. So that's to your point, Narda, when devotee have some fear not to be exposed, even though they think this is the right thing to do, for some reason, being afraid to make aparadha to a pure devotee who is silent, who is neutral, they just don't want to be seen publicly. So that's another phenomena, and I think ISKCON will need to deal with this in the near future. Otherwise, it will be a big calamities among the members of our society when opinions on the very difficult subjects will be suppressed.
Yeah,
I want to ask Narada Prabhu, does this broadcast was useful for you?
it was very useful. I mean, for me, the whole point of this podcast is to help devotees share their stories, and in particular, share stories that aren't being shared on other platforms.
So this is goal. This is our goal.
This is why this is really important, because this topic matter will be of interest to lots of people. And when I established this podcast 4 years ago, I wanted to make sure that I give as many people as was possible a voice. So even if I disagree with them, I don't disagree with you, by the way. I'm 100% behind you. Even if I disagree with a guest, they have to have the opportunity to share their voice. I always say that there's only two groups of people that are expelled from this podcast. So one is child abusers, if I know somebody's a child abuser, and the other group of people that are banned are Nazis, the far right. Because believe it or not, there is a far right element in the Hare Krishna movement. It's very small, but it exists, and I find that very bizarre because my first basic understanding of Krishna consciousness is we're not the body. We're not the body. We're not male or female or black or white or Jewish or Hindu or Christian. If you can't get past that, then we're struggling, aren't we? So for me, it was so
But
important.
that can be abused largely. All that we're not this body can be used by abusers, and it's been a
Yes,
case, especially
yes.
in religious organization when someone is in a in a in a position when they can't protest or they can't even say anything, and that's a case with a child abuse and so many other cases. So that you're doing a great thing with giving voice to voiceless, and we're being voiceless for some time, but I think now more and more devotees are hearing our voices, and again thanks to you to giving us a chance.
I
Because
actually
I
did this as a
would like to add a few things in terms of practical like conclusions, uh, if I may. Uh, it's not completely practical, but in terms of like personal conclusions out of the story, for us it was like all these 3 years of war and like facing all these challenges within ISKCON. It was very transformative experience, and I found myself in a board. It feels like that most of the devotees who are coming to like our society is trying to die as soon as possible and just go to Krishna straight away, not changing their consciousness and not changing their like relationships with uplifting and spiritualizing their relationship with like outside people and outside world and environment. And like it feels like we are moving into different directions. And in terms of practical things, I think this situation shows the scale of like issues and deviations within ISKCON in terms of the misunderstanding of and abuse of the apparatha topic, misunderstanding and abuse of the like relationship with society and what is our duty towards society, politics, etc. Although Srila Prabhupada gave like huge amount of instructions on these topics. And like misunderstanding of the roles of the leaders and spiritual teachers, because right now we have more kind of like cults in individual like individually I don't like forgot the word
Individuals.
individuality cult where like people just follow blindly their leaders and they're not allowed to question if questions may feel as inconvenient questions, and we have to reconsider culture of feedback and negative feedback from the juniors to seniors. We have completely non-existent culture of negative feedback in the ISKCON society, and this all the problems that kind of popped up when we started to like churning this topic of the like war issue, and and I think we should do a lot of things in order to fulfill like the second part of the mission in terms of building Srila Prabhupada's mission in terms of building Varnashrama Dharma, because right now we are more kind of small sectarian group rather than like transformative movement. And yeah, this is a like personal question to everyone, how they can be more like taking responsibility on their spiritual lives and not like following blindly some like crazy things. And maybe it can be a good separate topic for somewhere in future to meet again on a podcast.
And
Thank you.
Narada Prabhu, just one minute. I will ask you 1 minute to share an interesting video that shows what we are doing, what you are doing, and what we are doing.
Please.
Second desk, blue jacket. What is your name?
My name's Alexis.
Alexis, please leave my lecture room. I don't want to see you at one of my lectures ever again.
I don't understand.
I am not going to ask a second time. Thank you. Why are there laws? What are laws for? Anyone? Social order?
To protect a person's personal rights.
Justice? Thank you. Tell me, was I unfair to your classmate just now? Indeed, I was. So, why didn't any of you protest? Why didn't you want to prevent this injustice? What you have just learnt, you wouldn't have understood in 1,000 hours of lectures unless you lived it. You didn't say anything because you weren't affected yourself. And this attitude speaks against you and against life. You think it doesn't concern you, so it's none of your business. Well, I'm here to say, if you don't help bring about justice, then one day you too may experience injustice, and there will be nobody there to stand before you. Every day an injustice happens in business, sport, or on the tram. Relying on someone else to take care of it is not good enough. You there, second desk, blue jacket.
That's what we are doing. We're asking devotees to voice their protest against injustice, because someday some injustice may come in their life, and if they are silent, if they don't support the victim of injustice, nobody will support them.
Thank you, Prabhu, for sharing that. And this is definitely a topic for another podcast in the future. But I genuinely believe, because of issues like this, because of issues around child abuse and other issues, I think ISKCON is facing an existential crisis, which is a big word. Does ISKCON have a future in the Western world? I often use the example of Christianity. For all of Christianity's faults, it has survived for 2,000 years, but because it has learnt to mold and adapt according to time, place, and circumstance. The Christianity practiced in my village is very different from the Christianity in southern India, but Christianity can mold and adapt according to time, place, and circumstance. And I really feel, unless the leaders of our Gaudiya Vaishnava society that we have this affection for, unless they can learn to get with the times, to implement Prabhupada's teachings properly, then ISKCON's future is looking very blurry for the future, I believe.
It's sort of updating.
Yes, updating.
Just updating.
Yeah.
We're not throwing it out. We're not canceling it. We're just updating.
And sometimes I feel that devotees like us, we are before our time. We're like these reformers, we're coming forward, and actually people aren't ready for it. And I'm thinking, what do you mean? It's 2025. What do you mean you're not ready? Why are we still talking about women's rights in 2025? It's just bizarre. So I applaud all of you for what you're doing. And I've really appreciated hearing more about spiritual matter today. And we've all been in contact for about a month or so in different ways. We're going to, I think, come to the conclusion of our podcast in a moment, because I think we've been recording for over 2 hours, maybe 2 hours 10 or something. It's one of the longer podcasts, but it is.
Narada Prabhu, some of our YouTube videos are almost 5 hours.
5 hours. Wow. Well, the longest podcast I ever produced was 3 hours, and that was with a sannyasi, not an ISKCON sannyasi. Well, it was Bhaktinandan Swami, who's a disciple of Srila Sridhar Maharaj. And he said to me, I said, Maharaj, would you come on the podcast? Because it'd be great to interview you. He said, Narada, I'll come on your podcast based on 2 conditions. One is you don't ask me any controversial questions. And two, you allow me the time to answer your questions. So I literally had 4 questions, and it lasted for 3 hours. So I asked him a question like, what is bhakti? And then I just sat back and relaxed for a whole hour, and he just explained, what is, it's wonderful, 3 hours. So what I'm going to do with this podcast is I will make sure that all the links, so on Facebook and YouTube, all of the links that you want me to share are with it, such as Mukunda Hari Prabhu's Spiritual Matter YouTube channel, the Patreon link to Food for Dharma, the link to the petition, if you want me to put that there, and any other links you want me to share, I can share those. And no doubt people, well, I hope people will want to get in touch with you after this, and I can make sure that happens. I can pass on your details. Okay, is there anything any of you want to say before we conclude and I say goodbye to everybody?
Just to
We want
thank
to say
you.
big thank you for like all this opportunity and for warm reception and for the opportunity to speak for international audience. Because in Russian speaking community, we have already a lot of people well informed about the issue. Some like are supporting a lot. Some are afraid of and monitoring it. But we understand that in international space, most of the people don't know. So like, thank you once more for this wonderful opportunity.
Thank you, Narada.
I can
Thank you.
also say that during Nazi Germany, the Pope tried to cooperate with Hitler's regime, but then the next Pope apologized to the people of the world. I think that there will come a time when ISKCON leaders will have to kneel down and apologize to the Ukrainians and Ukrainian devotees.
Thank you, Mukunda Hari Prabhu. That's a really important note to end on. So if you all just stay with me for a moment, don't leave. I'm going to say goodbye to everybody watching. So don't leave the Zoom room. Big thank you to everyone who's tuned in to watch this week's edition. I hope that you have found it of use and of benefit. Do not forget, if you're watching this on YouTube and you haven't already, please hit the subscribe button on the Hare Krishna Project YouTube channel. And also, if you're watching this on Facebook, if you haven't already, please do like or follow the Hare Krishna Project Facebook page. Those are the two ways, the two platforms you can watch this podcast. And maybe also, if you're hearing this, it might have already happened. This might also be going on some of the Spiritual Matter social media platforms as well. Why not share an important story? I'm very grateful to Mukunda Hari Prabhu, Dina Bandhu Prabhu, Nilachandra Prabhu, and Lubomir Prabhu for being our guest this week. Until next week, I'll see you all soon. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.